Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. I'm your host, Michael Weaver, and we have a special guest today, Mr. Gary Inzana. Gary, how are you?
I'm doing excellent, brother. Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and really happy to be here and talk about what we all love the most: insurance.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, insurance. It's
Well,
it's a
insurance
blast.
related.
That's right, my man. So, Gary, seriously, I appreciate you. So you're with Top Tier Recruiting, and I've been getting a ton of questions around the current environment, recruiting. How do we get more people? It feels like nobody wants to work. Now, obviously, before we get into that, I think it would be awesome to know, who is Gary Inzana? Like who were you before you started your recruiting company, before you started working with insurance professionals?
hmm Well, first and foremost, I'm a dad. I'm a girl dad to my beautiful little 4-year-old Aliana. I'm a husband, almost 10 years now with my wife Sarah. And prior to this, I've had almost every single sales job you could ever think of. You know, 3/4 of the people that when I started doing this in my basement interviewing people, probably about 3/4 of the jobs I already had. You know, and I was a outside tire sales rep for Bridgestone and Goodyear tires for a while, and then a mutual friend got me involved with another recruiting company, and things didn't work out with them, and they sent me packing. And in times of need and desperation, how do you feed how do you feed your family? What's next? You know, you're 40 something years old. You know, time is ticking away, and truthfully, I didn't have the confidence to actually go on my own. And they say sometimes you need external things kind of prodding you to tell you that you're worth it. Some people say that's why you see therapists, right? But this was a friend of mine, Arbin Balazi. He was an Allstate agent in Chicago. Now he's running a very, very large brokerage in Chicago, and he flew me out there. He put a big thick wad of cash in my pocket, a laptop, and he says, "I believe in you. Go try this out." And since then we've been pretty much best friends. I talk to him every day, and I paid him off, and from there, it was just one person at a time, and then the referrals just started coming almost instantaneously. How I started was, I had at the last place I was at, there were some internal difficulties, and one of the accounts that didn't do so well, that weren't happy with us. I called that gentleman up and said, "Hey, it looks like we owe you 30 people. How about I do it for you?" And the gentleman, this was an Allstate agent over in Texas. His name's Mike. I won't say his last name, but and he says, I think I've had enough of you guys. We're good. And I said, well, I've already dropped the job posts. So either I'm literally gonna call these people and tell them to literally walk into your inner office without any type of introduction, or we can control these meetings and we could begin the interviews. And he says, all right, get with Julie and let's talk about that. And that's his manager, who's an amazing person on her own. And what took the company I worked with about 2-3 months to find these 30 people the original time took me 4 days in my basement. And he was so happy with it, he even offered to pay. And I said, listen, I don't want your money. I feel like I owe this to you to begin with. And now moving forward, just tell everybody about me. And that's how Top Tier really grew, how it started.
Man, I love that story. So, obviously, you sounded like you were in sales.
I've been in sales
your entire life, and then you took a chance on a recruiting company. I think you, and from talking to you from previous, you did really well there. Things just didn't work out, and then you had somebody, and it's so funny because sometimes we have to have somebody to believe in us to help us take that next step. And so I absolutely love that story because somebody knew what you could do, believed in you enough to give you the wad of cash, and then you made it happen.
Yeah, and now I'm lucky I have a staff of 9 people that you guys all believe in me, and that's, first person, my daughter believes in me. She's 4. I'm her daddy, right? My wife believes in me. My mom, God rest her soul, you know, always number one in her book, right? And now I got a staff of people that give a shit. I have a staff of people that I can't even explain how lucky I am to work for them. You know, I look at it like, hey, listen, I work for them, and either I'm going to take care of them or somebody else is going to take care of them. And I'm blessed. I have surrounded myself, and I'm at the point now in my career that I don't have to work with everybody. I can surround myself with the people I want to be around that build me up as much as I build them up. And I'm really in debt to the people that work with me. All great people. I'm lucky.
Brother, that's you just said something that's very. I work for them, and from a leadership standpoint, that's amazing. I love that viewpoint, and I love the fact that when somebody bet on you, you bet on yourself, and you made it happen, and now you're one of the top recruiting companies in the nation for insurance professionals. So I love that. So for all you listening out there, all right, I don't know what time of day it is, whether you're joining us for coffee or whether you got a whiskey in your hand, but we are getting buzzed on the insurance buzz today. So let's get into this, all right? So now we know who Gary is, how Gary formed the company, which I always like these backstories because that is a wild story. So I thank you for sharing that. So let's get into some recruiting data. So I think the first question I have is what are you seeing out in the field from a recruiting standpoint? Because I talk to insurance professionals every day, and they're like, the turnover is happening right now like wildfire. It's hard to find new people, and this just isn't insurance. This is every industry. So are you seeing that on your end as well? I mean, is it more difficult now than it was prior, or what do you think?
Well, I think agents or any employer has to get over it. And what I mean is this. You need to get out of that mindset what I've learned is in recruiting, it's constantly changing. Every couple, 2-3 months, there's new trends, right? And these agents need to get out of these 1987 modes of thought, or even from 3-4 years ago, right? That if you are an agency owner, okay, I don't care if you have a staff of 4 people that have been working for you for 10 years, right? It's never going to stop. Recruiting never stops. And as long as you understand that coming into the business or change your mindset now, it's expected. It's to be expected. You know, it's probably not that person who's been with you 10 years that's maybe thinking about leaving. Maybe they are, right? It's typically this new crew of people that you've hired over the past 3 years. You know, these candidates know it's an employees market, right? I mean, they could literally walk out of your office right now with no 2-week notice and literally walk across the street to any business, any of them, and they'll get hired on the spot. People are getting, employers are bribing even people that aren't worth it just to show up because they have no one to run their business. And, you know, there was like this big push, you know, years back for the $15 an hour, right, for fast food workers, minimum wage, this, that, the other. Now people look at $15 an hour and they look at that as below minimum wage. You know, it's people without skill sets. And what I found is this, right? I think volume is the key to this industry, right? In my opinion, okay? So some actual numbers I've seen, you know, I offer these recruiting packages where I bring volumes of people to the agents, right? And then they can hire anybody they want out of these events. And I tell people, make as many offers as you can. Because here's why. Well, Gary, I need 2 people. I need 2 salespeople. First question I ask them, how many people do you have to hire for 2 to stick? Now it changes their mindset. Oh, well, is that a trick question? It is. I already know the answer to it. 5 to 7, more, right? You guys got a 50% turnover rate with salespeople in your company. Whether it's Allstate, State Farm, Independent, it doesn't matter. It's 50%, right? So what I've seen is maybe I bring you 20 people and you want to make offers to 7. Here's real numbers. And I tell people this in my pitch. Here's real world numbers. 2 people will ghost you for sure. 1 person will decline you. Now you're down to 3 or whatever it is. And then 1 doesn't show up to their first date. Now you're down with 2. And in 6 months, you're down to 1. Right? So, and also too, I think Agents, I'm not going to say their standards are too high, but I think they're too busy looking in all the wrong places. There's a recruiter on LinkedIn. His name is Joel Alge. Forgive me if I'm saying it incorrectly, Joel. And I have a screenshot I take that I share with people. It's something like this. You know, Employers should be looking for people with 60 to 70% of the skill sets they're looking for, right? And have the drive and desire to want to be with them, that have gas, that give a shit, right? And if they're trainable and if they're coachable and they want to be here with you right now selling insurance, right? I'd rather coach and train somebody from the ground up than try to pluck a unicorn and see if, how long they're going to stay here on their little their pit stop to wherever they're going. I think the people that you grow and harvest in this industry, I think it'll create more loyalty. Well, I can't hire that guy. He was a waiter or a bartender. Well, guys, you're talking to one of the top insurance recruiters in the country now that was a waiter and bartender for 10 years, right? And somebody had to give me my shot at 28 years old, right? And there's people out there, they're looking for their step-up jobs. Plain and simple. They're looking for their step-up jobs. So some of these agents, when they work with us, right, because they don't look at the resumes prior to interviewing these people, there's no way you can sit there and review 20 resumes and then hop on a call and maybe 14 of these people show up, right? You're not going to remember it all. So it's interesting doing it in a different order where you're interviewing these people and now you're using the resume as an indicator. Oh, he was really good. Oh, he worked at Archer selling shoes for a year and a half. Wow, I can't believe this guy's that good. There's good people out there. You need to quit being so narrow-minded. There is a great reshuffle. Mike, you know this. There's a great reshuffle right now. There are people that are just quitting their jobs and starting new careers and all over the place. So,
yep. So that's really good stuff. And see, one of the things I really enjoy about you, Gary, is you're super transparent. And so you hit on a lot of really good information right there. And I think one of the biggest things you hit on is it's a funnel. Either they have to always be recruiting or they're going to have to pay somebody to recruit for them. But it's just like a sales funnel. Like the only way that you're going to hit your sales goals is if you constantly have a funnel full of prospects. The only way you're going to ever make sure that you have a fully staffed office, and maybe you find that unicorn, maybe you don't, but you lose somebody and you have somebody good to replace them, is if you constantly have like that funnel, or again, you find somebody to help you with that. And so my question would be, so yes, the market has changed a little bit.
Every couple months.
Can you talk a little bit about maybe what you're seeing in like job postings that are working really well versus maybe some things in the past or things that you see that agents give you or that you see agents doing that are just like big no-nos?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Whether it's agents or other companies working for them, it's being too vague. In the first paragraph or two of many of my job posts, I break down the base and the comp, right? There's other companies out there putting abroad 50 to 90, right? Or there's other agents regurgitating corporate stuff or other agent stuff. And what stands you out from everybody else? It's the same regurgitated ad. It's all this generic stuff. If I were to read that, here's what I would not understand. What am I getting paid? Is this Monday through Friday? All the important stuff is a lot of these people, they hide it, right? And I think it's very, very important to begin with that transparency. And I'm going to tell you the truth. 75% of these candidates, none of them woke up and said, I want to sell for State Farm or Allstate. And 75% of them didn't even read the full job post. They're skimming them, right? For the features and benefits that best fit them. This is the market we're in, So it's very important that you're transparent with your job posts. Why not? Because when you use your own, whether it's you're calling out, you're having one of your staff members call out, and you're using labor to reach out to these people, and one of the questions they ask is, well, what's the base? And then you start trying to sidestep it or tell them how good the commission is. And listen, trying to convince a stranger how good your commission is there's a lot of other things I'd rather be doing, right? So I think it all begins in transparency and, that first reach out. So we almost kind of reread our job posts to these people when we get a hold of them. So in that first minute, we're reviewing with them, or as Daniel would say, we're refreshing them, right, on the base, on the comp, on the benefits, on the schedule, right? Because I've learned in today's environment, unless you're giving somebody something that they want, they're not going to listen to you. They don't care, right? And that's why I think agents need to emotionally separate themselves from the recruiting process, is because they're too emotionally invested in it. So when they're reaching out, they're frantically doing it in between meetings, or after work when they're already shot, or they got a kid in their lap, or whatever it is. In recruiting, it's the same thing as sales. So, after we explain to people, what their schedule is, what their hours are, things like this, it's a simple question. Do you want to move forward? Yes or no? The reason why many people say yes to us is because there are very few careers out there that allow you to work almost banker's hours like you do in insurance and make the type of money you can. But it's a grind. It's a grind. It's a lot of phone work. So I'll ask people, hey, before I start the interview, are you okay making your money over the phone? This position requires you to commute to our office. You're going to be on the phones. You're going to be on the computer almost the whole day. Oh my gosh, you didn't wait to tell that to them at the last interview? No, I'm telling them that before the agents meet them, because the agent's time is the most precious out of all of this. So it all starts with being transparent from your job post, and then reviewing that job post with the potential candidates and having them understand the expectations. And I call it a prep vet. We prep them for what is, we vet them for what they can or can't do. So any of you agents out there that are putting blanket $50,000 to $90,000 and you're regurgitating all the same ads from your brothers and sisters across the way, you're not standing out. That's one of the reasons why you're not getting anybody hitting up your Indeed or your ZipRecruiter or whatever it may be. So transparency, brother.
Okay, that's so transparency and specific. Like, be as specific as possible, transparent. I love that. Because I believe that with them, and so you mentioned something earlier in the conversation about the Great Reshuffle. I know right now they're calling it the Great Resignation, whatever it's. So are you seeing more? My wife and I actually had this conversation the other day, and I think it's very interesting because in the insurance model, we were so focused on getting folks straight out of college and let's build it through that route. Whereas right now, I think is an amazing opportunity with the time we have with this Great Resignation, Great Reshuffle, to where you have folks that have proven work history that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s that are more than likely hitting the market. So how are, number one, are you seeing that? And number two, how are you going to make yourself appealing to those folks that have a little bit more job tenure? They're proven, they have the work history behind them. Like, are you seeing that, or is this something that I'm just like just making up?
Oh yeah, I think it's part of it is changing the mindset of agency owners, because I think so many of them are geared towards younger people, right? Well, I got news for you. I was 42 years old the first time I got on the phones and made my life out of everything over the phone, right? So what I'll say is this, that agents need to change their mindset because they're worried, well, this guy's older. I'm not going to keep this guy very long. Well, with the average, the average time you're keeping your employees is 6 to 8 months. What are you worried about this 55-year-old guy, right? And they bring so much to the table. Now, I'm not saying I won't find a resume and pick up the phone and dial out if I find a recent college grad, but I'm not really impressed with recent college grads. They're not my favorite crew of people to pick from. I'm going to be honest with you. They ask the most questions. They eat up the most of our time on these interviews, and they're doing it to practice. Many of them don't even end up showing up. And for me, so far, many of the younger people that I have hired have not panned out. Not to say I won't try and hire more young people, but I actually like that 30 plus crowd, 40s and 50s. I think they make great employees. And don't worry about these people, how long they're going to last. I mean, your culture is going to indicate how long they last. The pay, the culture, how you treat them. People aren't leaving jobs for $1 an hour. They're leaving jobs because they're not respected, or it's for the pay. So there's a lot of good people out there, and agents, it's about the mindset. They need to change their mindset. There's good people everywhere. There's good people that are looking for that step up job. Okay, I was 28 as a waiter and bartender, right? And got my first step up job in real sales, right? Well, there's 40-year-old bartenders out there that are looking for their step-up jobs. They're seizing the moment. Why not give them the opportunity? I work with new agents every day that are 40-something years old, starting their agencies. So, hey, I was 42 when I started my recruiting company. So, I don't know. I think there's good people everywhere. Everywhere, man.
There is great people, and I'm glad you said that, because yeah, it's not that you aren't going to hire somebody that's in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, or somebody that's in their teens or 20s. It's just having a more open. That would be my like opinion here, just viewpoint, is having an open idea of what does that perfect candidate look like, and I think that that's really important for folks to do on the front end. Is what does a perfect person, a perfect candidate, a perfect team member look like for your office, for your culture? Like, you have to really, in my opinion, not only get their job description and duties on paper, but actually visualize what does that perfect person look like that's going to get along. Because you're hitting the nail on the head. You just said something as far as your culture is what's going to keep folks with you. Like, yeah, sometimes pay will get in the way, but I would, in all the businesses I've ever owned, it's the culture. Like, your culture is, and some people just aren't going to be a good fit, and that's okay. But if you have the right culture, that winning culture, you're diving into your people, you're leading your people, you're investing in your folks. Because insurance is a noble profession. Insurance is one of those professions that you get rewarded every day for doing the right thing. It's a win-win profession. You help people, and you can get paid really well for it. And so it's that noble profession that folks want to do. Insurance just isn't a sexy industry until you actually get into it and you realize, wow, I have the ability to change someone's life.
Brother, that's what we touch base on when we coach our agents how to run these group interviews, okay? For the agents that want to do that, right? That's the first thing we go over with them. It's like, think about it, right? People have these preconceived notions about what insurance sales is, okay? Because they don't know. They see the movies, they see the TV, they lump them in with lawyers. And here's the thing, right? The way we go about selling this opportunity, because there's a difference between selling and interviewing a group of people, a basketball team versus a single person, is you want all of these people to pull one of the threads to what you're saying. And what I mean is this. We're paid very well to help people in some of the worst times of their lives. We're here to educate people to make sure that they're protected, right? And the way I look at it is, it's like, look, if people don't like getting paid well, they'll like the good work-life balance. If they don't like the good work-life balance, they'll like helping people. If you don't like helping people, you'll like educating people. If you don't like that, you'll like protecting people. Right? There is something in that arsenal that every single person on this call, is going to pull the thread to. That single mom, right, who's got 2 kids and not only wants to be there, like feed her kids, but be there while they eat, maybe have a dinner with them once in a while. She's pulling the thread to what you're saying. That used car salesman that hasn't had dinner with his wife since the '88 Eldorado came out, he is pulling the thread to what you're saying. And that recent college grad that, they think they're going to jump right out of college working banker's hours, making 80 grand a year. Well, here's a profession to do that. They'll pull the thread, right? So we have our agents talk about the features and benefits that they get out of this, because you are such generous agency owners. We want to share this with your staff, So yes, I think insurance is a very noble profession. You're helping people. I mean, Michael, I know you had a State Farm for a while, and I'm sure you've taken calls yourself for somebody who crashed their car, right? And I'm sure it's a mother, and she crashed the car, and she's probably not in her right frame of mind, and you have to help guide her through that difficult process, right? Or how about somebody that they damaged their house, and you already know they're not calling you on their top frame of mind; they're out of it. Or how about a death claim that you have to handle with care, and I know it feels good when you hand that $250,000 check to that widow, not because somebody died, but because those kids are going to be fed.
That's right. I mean, insurance, my wife, from a superhero standpoint, like, insurance professionals are the protectors of assets. You literally are working with folks on potentially the worst day of their lives, and there's something to be said about that. Obviously, I'm biased, But I think insurance is one of the most, if not the most noble professions in the United States. So,
and what's wrong with profit? What's wrong with making money to help people? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. And I think that's what people, when they're, quote, judging insurance is, that's people new in business have to understand, and this is myself included, is it's okay to make a profit,
Yeah, you're adding value to people's lives. I mean, the more value you add to the more people's lives, the more money you make, period. Like, it's a win-win situation. Like, if you want to make more money in the insurance profession, you help more people. And that's, and I know we're not talking about recruiting right now, but this is a really good conversation. I love this.
Because people need to understand this. These people, when they show up to these interviews, many of them, they didn't wake up and said, hey, I want to sell for State Farm or Allstate. They're salespeople looking for a vessel or a tool to use their abilities. And then when they hear these little perks or big perks, you get to that used car salesman on the phone. Hey, brother, first thing I ask him, I don't go into the interview. I say, hey, how would you like to have dinner with your wife every night and have the weekends off to be with the kids? And you get the stutter step. That's exactly why yeah, I know. I already know the guy sold. People need to know that. And I think more people would be interested in insurance. So that's what we do. It's part education, and part vetting. People need to know what's expected of them. So before they meet you, the agency owner, they have an idea of what everything is. That's our job.
Nope, I love that. So, and I think where we can tie this all back together, and hopefully you folks that are listening, it's the job description, the pay, all those specifics, but talking more around why you do what you do. Why is insurance a noble profession? Yeah, some of the benefits, maybe you offer health insurance, whatever, but not getting down into the weeds and actually talking high level how folks can make a difference in people's lives. Is that fair, Gary?
Absolutely. And I think many of these candidates didn't know that that's what you would, that's what you do in insurance.
Well, and I bring that up because as a young business owner, when I started, I was 25 years old. That's not how I recruited. I was recruiting because I was focused on, hey, here's what I'm going to need you to do. This is the pay. This is the commission structure. This. I wasn't talking. And so that was something I had learned throughout the way, obviously, of, okay, I'm not attracting people, so I need to start talking. But so for all you business owners out there that are doing this yourselves, like, this is a great conversation. So Gary, thank you, my man. This is really good. Like, yeah, you got to tell people what they're going to be doing, but also the why behind what you do in your office, what your office is all about, what your team is all about.
Well, when you talk about the why, that's one of my favorite questions on any of these interviews, and anybody listening, right? If you're still one of those agents that asks your candidate, so tell me why you've chosen insurance sales. I got news for you, brother, sister. They haven't chosen insurance sales. They're salespeople, and they're looking for the vessel, right? And what I like to start with is this. I like to start with, why are you here? What do you mean, why am I here? Why are you here? Why sales? And most people, they get the prototypical, I'm money hungry, right? And I tell my agents, don't stop at these one-word answers. Why? Why is money so important? Money buys options. Well, my wife doesn't work. I have 3 kids at home. I got to feed them. There's an excellent why statement, right? So anybody listening here, stop asking people why insurance. Ask them more about why sales, or if it's service, why service, and then dig deep and get that real why statement. Because at the end of the day, when you get a legitimate why statement, when you're holding these people accountable, right? Why not hold them accountable towards their own goals and needs and wants? Speak of their language.
That's right. I love that. Well, Gary, my man, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
Easiest is 406-RECRUIT, 406-732-7848, 406-RECRUIT. Or if you go on either my Facebook, my LinkedIn, anything like that, there is a link. It says, please click the link for help or something like that, and that'll bring you right to my calendar, and then you can pick a day and time that's good for you. And then once I get my website fixed, I think it's going to be this month, it'll be on my website too, toptiergary.com.
Okay.
Somebody already purchased Top Tier Recruiting and Consulting, and somebody also purchased GaryInzana.com.
That's all right. So they can follow you on socials. And guys, all this will be in the show notes. They can follow you on social, Gary Inzana, Top Tier Recruiting, obviously, with the socials. And then your website is Top Tier Gary. Okay.
Top Tier Gary.
Well, Gary, I appreciate you. I appreciate your transparency. I felt like this was a great conversation. Lots of golden nuggets. And for all you folks listening out there, you all know this. Time is the most valuable and important asset that we all have. I appreciate you spending just a few minutes with us today. Gary, my man, thank you so much again for your time. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Bye.
All right, brother.